We appreciate you, Karen.
No problem.
Thanks for the
How
ride.
many cops were at the wedding? Was it just you and Jean?
Yep.
Wow, where the fuck are all the cops today?
They couldn't get into the city.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so where are we escorting them to?
We're going this way.
Gentlemen.
Coming. I don't know where we're going.
Oh, well,
I'm walking.
no wonder there was no cops on, because there was literally no cops on.
Literally no cops.
We were thinking there were cops on.
Nope.
Well, that explains so much.
Yeah, I assumed it was everyone attending the wedding.
Yeah, we
There
were
literally
just kind
There
of...
hasn't
just
been
was,
any on in a
there
while.
was no cops in the city besides, well, me and Jean and...
Been like 2 weeks where there hasn't been no cops
you were a part
on.
of the wedding. Carice was a part of the wedding, obviously.
Well, I guess, yeah, Carice was also a cop, but could not obviously be on duty because she was getting
Right.
married.
Well, the last
So-
Be
wedding
funny.
that was on, the cops that were invited, at least a couple of them stayed on duty, right?
So
I
was,
figured,
yeah, I was on duty for Alex's wedding.
right, I figured that's what would happen, and well, that
But
explains
there
why
was
there were
no
fucking
cops
cops
to
on
be
duty.
on duty for, yeah.
You know, I missed an opportunity to call a detective bride.
By the way, Karen, congratulations
Let's see
on
what you did
your.
there.
I'm so proud of you. Congratulations
thank
on your
you.
promotion.
Thank you.
Are you a sergeant?
I'm a detective in training.
Oh, outstanding.
Or taking an elevator.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, what's the weight limit on the elevator? Because I weigh like 350 on my own.
You're okay.
I'll wait.
Okay.
It's one at a time.
Wow. My stomach feels all queasy from the elevator.
Just make
Windy in
sure to
here. Is
put
that the AC?
yourself on. Make sure to put yourself on shouting because it's a little loud up here because they never finished the roof.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
All right, defendants, follow me.
You're gonna go over there where Polly is.
The lights never work up here, do they?
I don't think so.
Do we just stand in a table here? Is that good?
How about over here next to me, just to make sure we can all hear each
Actually,
other?
Yeah, you need to stand in the middle here with Polly, like right next to Polly. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. And Morgan, as long as you can hear, you can stand pretty much anywhere.
Alrighty.
Okay, is everything set?
I believe the defense is ready, Your Honor. Surely?
I am ready.
Hopefully I don't have to eat during this.
Morgan,
Alright, we're starting.
Yep.
it's time.
Wow.
I got permission.
Court reporter, if you could, well, are the defendants going to be testifying?
They will not.
Okay, no one needs to be sworn in at this time. Prosecutor, your opening statement.
Your Honor, this situation at Legion Square was a quite a hectic one. The issue being that many civilians not obeying the police trying to clear the area to keep everyone safe. However, although there were more, these two unfortunately were not willing to leave until they were arrested. And because the police had to focus so much on clearing the area, they were putting both their lives and other civilians in the lives dealing with it.
Okay. Mr. Scambaggio, anything for the defense's opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense's case will prove that the officers were not hampered in any way by the actions of my my clients in the conducting of their duties, and so that their conduct does not rise to the level of obstruction of justice, which is what they are charged with. That is all.
Does the prosecution have any witnesses that they wish to call?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, do you have any witnesses that you wish to call?
Unfortunately, the witnesses were not able to be here, but we do have the affidavits of the 3 officers on duty at the time.
Yes, I've read the affidavits.
I do believe Bob Diddlebob was trying to make it, but I do not think he's here.
I keep hearing a dog up on this floor.
I think that's your pocket dog there. I will go handle it.
Does the defense have they seen the affidavits and read them?
Yes, Your Honor, we have.
Do you have do you agree with what's in the affidavits, or do you have any evidence or argument against them?
Well, I do believe I have arguments against them, Your Honor, as that the officers feel that their abilities to do their job were hampered by my clients. However, as my affidavit that I've submitted as the timeline of events, that Detective Carice Hunter has signed off on as being an accurate portrayal of what went on, kind of countermends that information. So I'm not sure this is the appropriate time to make my argument referencing my affidavit quite yet.
I have read your affidavit timeline and seen the signature of Officer Hunter. Does the prosecution have any evidence or arguments against that affidavit timeline?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. My first question is for the prosecution. Why obstruction of justice instead of just a simple failure to comply?
Your Honor,
There you go. You're good.
excuse me. I can't find my. The obstruction of justice comes from the fact that instead of complying, they were then arguing with the officers. Well, multiple people were arguing with the officers and giving everyone a hard time about leaving the situation.
That's all they got. That's it.
And for the defense, do you contest that you failed to comply with an officer's order to leave the area?
Your Honor, my clients were ordered, as my timeline shows, a few times. I would say 2 to 3 times before they were actually arrested. However, in particular, I believe it was about. Bear with me one moment, Your Honor. In particular, around 9:27 to 9:29, Officers Honeydew did order them to leave. However, they also left the scene, went back to PD to clock out, and did not bring them with them while having the opportunity to arrest.
Now,
Nor did they comply by leaving the scene themselves, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
there's an objection to that. I'm sorry. The officers in question, both Honeydew and I believe it's one Lola, they are simply cadets, and they were following protocol. They had contacted Officer, I believe, 55, who had then replaced them.
I believe that information is not accurate. Honeydew is a probationary officer and does have the ability to arrest people. So if she wanted to detain my clients and take them away from what they claim to be a dangerous situation, she had full ability to do so. And she chose not to.
Officer 08 is not a probationary officer. She is still a cadet.
Can confirm she is actually a cadet. She
All
is
right,
not
that
a
is-
probationary officer.
All right, that is my mistake.
Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. Is there any particular reason why the defendants did not comply with the officer's order?
Yes, Your Honor. They did not feel in danger in the situation, as strange as that may sound, and they felt that they would be doing what the perpetrators wanted by fleeing the square, and so they refused to comply against the wishes of those who were firing the shots. They felt they were being intimidated, and they refused to do so. Which is to say, feel intimidated.
Does either party know who was firing the shots at the square?
No, Your Honor. I do not believe they were ever detained by police.
The information was never given to me, so I do not believe we know who they are at this time.
However, Your Honor, as I feel my timeline shows, the course of the events, from the first shots being fired, to the arrival of the officers, to the actual arrest of my clients, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 35 minutes, at which the officers were free to question everyone at the scene. They came and went as they felt necessary. The entire time, my clients were standing more or less stationary next to the sidewalk near their vehicles. So they in no way hampered the police from the execution of their duties. So any assertion that their actions led to these suspects getting away, I feel, is patently false.
So noted. Let's go through the elements of the obstruction. Obstruction is willfully impeding law enforcement in the course of an arrest, comma, investigation, or other official duties. Was there an arrest occurring at the time?
No, sir.
Mr. Prosecutor?
No, Your Honor.
Was there an active investigation going on at time, Mr. Prosecutor?
The officers were trying to figure out where the shootings were coming from, along with trying to figure out why there were unidentified flying objects over Legion Square. And while they were trying to do that, they were also trying to clear Legion Square of civilians who were refusing to leave.
Does the defense have any argument on why that would not be an investigation?
Your Honor, I feel that does meet the definition of an investigation. Our assertion is that the officers were completely free to come and go from the scene and not hampered in any way by our clients, and they did so. They arrived on the scene in the neighborhood of 9:12 to 9:14 p.m. according to my timeline, and it was not until 9:27 to 9:29 that Cadet Honeydew ordered them to leave. So that is a good 15 minutes my clients were allowed to stand there and were not considered to be in the way whatsoever. When questioned by Detective Hunter, they willfully gave up all information they had as to the incident, and at that point they felt like they were being good witnesses.
Well, the first of the three elements of obstruction is there in that there was an investigation. So we'll go to element number 2, willful.
Your Honor, I apologize to interrupt. I still feel like they were not impeding the investigation in any way.
Yes, that will be element number 3. Mr. Prosecutor, do you feel the actions of the defendants was willful?
I do, Your Honor. They had stated how they did not feel in any danger and had no reason to leave. Thus, they willfully proceeded to ignore police warnings of leaving the area.
Defense, do you have any arguments against that?
Your Honor, I mean, my clients did exercise their free will to remain stationary and what they consider out of the way of the police investigation.
So noted. So on to element 3, and probably the most important element, impeding. Mr. Prosecutor, in what way did these two defendants impede law enforcement?
Because they were not willing to leave, the officers were forced, instead of working on the investigation of the shooter and the unidentifiable flying objects, they had to stay and protect them from any danger that, although they did not feel, was still there.
And, Your Honor, I feel, according to the timeline that I submitted that Detective Hunter signed off on, the officers were completely free to leave the situation and did so, and were in no way protecting my clients from harm.
Oh my god. Okay, just go.
Mr. Prosecutor, in any of the affidavits you submitted, did the officers testify that the defendants impeded their progress of the investigation?
Yes, one moment. On the affidavit of Gerald Winchester, I believe it states.
If you would please read it into the record.
He stated that there were many tires being shot and deflated. Officers were responding, searching for shooting, as well as evacuating the area for public safety. He arrived on scene and had heard 27 tell the two people that if they did not leave, they would be arrested. They continued not to comply. The problem is, when shots are being fired in the area, it is our job to keep the people safe and evacuate the area. We had lawful reason to close the park, but they refused to comply, continuing to trespass and loiter. And many others tried to rally really hard to stay around as well. When people want to stay, others want to stay. It's a chain of effect. So hence the obstruction of justice.
Defense counsel, any argument against that?
Most definitely, Your Honor. Now, as to the other people's actions, my clients in no way made any attempt to coerce or communicate with anyone to convince them to come hither to where they were. They did not tweet, they did not send out text messages, they did not make phone calls to try and incite anyone to come to Legion Square, and they cannot be held responsible for the actions of others. Now, my clients, once they were arrested, were fully compliant with being arrested. They did not try to run. They did not try to argue. They just made the point that if you want us to leave the square, we will in fact have to be arrested. Which the police were free to do so at literally any time through the course of these events, and they only chose to do so some 30 minutes after the entire thing started. So in a way, my clients, I feel, were protesters / conscientious objectors.
That's good.
Am I correct in
Conscientious
saying
objector.
this was a freedom of speech issue on their part?
More of a freedom to assembly. They did not feel threatened by what was going on in Legion Square, and they did not wish to leave. They felt like they were free to stay there. Now, on the one hand, Your Honor, the defense acknowledges that the police does have a right to public safety is their purview. But on the same hand, they did not take action for some 30 to 35 minutes after the event started. So the safety of my clients, I do not feel, was the main issue in their mind. They first conducted their investigation, and then once it was clear they were not able to, the investigation would not bear fruit, they turned their focus upon my clients, and perhaps they were upset at the situation. It is difficult to say their motivations exactly. But I feel like they were upset that my clients did not comply to their order, and so they wanted to hit them with the hardest possible charge that they could. And if you notice in the affidavit, the crimes that were mentioned, the charges, were of the nature of loitering and failure to comply, and it is only once they were arrested in the basement of PD and behind bars that this obstruction of justice idea came about. And that is my statement.
Okay. Do you have any defense counsel? Do you have any witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor. There's simply the affidavit on behalf of Astro by Don here, who is present in the red shirt to our left. Well, your right to my left. Speaking to the character of Astro. And I would like to point out that both of my clients have literally no criminal record before this event.
So noted. Would you like to give your character evidence of Mr. Astro?
Certainly, Your Honor. I will lead it into the record. One moment, please, while I get the affidavit out.
I don't know what baby shoes Mr. Miller doing back
Don
there.
has been kind enough to say, Astro has never broken the law as far as I know. He is one of the only citizens who does not actively go out and try to rob or hurt others. He then goes on to speculate about the obstruction of justice charge. Oh, you know what? I'll just read into the record. To continue, how they are calling this obstruction of justice is beyond my comprehension, as he was not trying to impede an active investigation or stop someone from being arrested. I don't think Astro should have a record because of a bad call by a member of LSPD. If anything, it should be failure to comply at most, and even that is stretching it for the sake of an arrest. Now that is Don's opinion. However, the defense does agree with this opinion.
Okay, I'm going to give a hypothetical, and I'd like to hear your argument one way or another. A 50-year-old man in Vice City gets an evacuation order because a hurricane's coming. He stays in his house. A little later on, houses around him are destroyed. His house is not. Looters ensue. But the police have to come to his house in order to save him from a heart attack. What, if anything, is this 50-year-old man guilty of?
Now, is the evacuation order mandatory, Your Honor?
Yes. I'd like to hear from the prosecution first. Well, are his actions not willful? Did he impede an investigation or other duty?
I apologize. I was having a voice box issue.
Oh, no problem. Please go ahead.
I could not hear the question.
Hold on a second. I gotta move.
Good time to eat.
I apologize. Sometimes my leg gets a cramp.
Oh, no, I understand, Your Honor. I was literally getting a cramp at the same moment.
Mr. Prosecutor, I'm given a hypothetical. In Vice City, a 50-year-old man refuses to comply with the mandatory evacuation order. The hurricane hits, looters ensue. What, if anything, should that man be charged with?
If in this hypothetical situation, this old man who is failing to leave the scene during I'm sorry, you said a hurricane?
Yes.
During a hurricane, that would be a failure to comply.
Okay, my next question is, how does that differ from what happened in the square with these two defendants?
This was not a natural disaster hitting the city. This was an active shooter shooting at civilians, as well as unidentified flying objects floating over Legion Square for reasons unable to be figured out.
Defense counsel, do you have anything to say about the hypothetical and or prosecutor's appraisal of it?
Well, I mean, Your Honor, this is a country that is all about freedom, and I feel like the man has a right to stay within his own home. There's a sanctity to your home. I mean, perhaps the man, I mean, it's hard to speculate what his motivation was, but he could have been concerned about the said looters that came afterwards and worried about his property. So he may have chosen to stay, in the eye of the storm, in the hurricane, to eventually protect his property and see it was not damaged from the storm and the subsequent looting, as we know that always seems to occur.
Yeah, see, that's good. That's good.
Now, I mean, hypothetically, as we're saying, I feel like failure to comply would be appropriate as a charge there. Because he did not comply with the lawful order, and I mean, we cannot know what comes of our actions. So the fact that police officers' lives may have been put in danger from either the looters or the hurricane to come and assist him, I mean, that is a consequence, but consequences cannot be known beforehand. So he did not willfully put their lives in jeopardy. It is just kind of what happened.
Oh, good. I wasn't the only one that's starving.
Hey,
An unfortunate outcome. And if I may state for the record, Your Honor, I did have several discussions with the prosecutor here to attempt to plea bargain this down to what the original charges should have been, what they were threatened as trespassing and failure to comply. But it appears that PD is very adamant that this has to be prosecuted as an obstruction of justice. for whatever reason.
Mr. Prosecutor, before I deliberate on all the evidence presented to me, do you wish to have any lesser included charges at this time?
I do not, Your Honor.
Okay, give me a couple minutes. I'm going to go over the evidence, and I will render my verdict in just a couple of minutes.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. And a little reminder, in case anyone is feeling hungry or thirsty, this may be an excellent time for a little bit of a snack.
Anyone needs any food? I have food on me too.
Bill, you got any peaches? Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that's stuff.
Like, there's probably some slash me's I could be doing other than their weird winking game. Just don't know what Astro would actually
You know,
be.
maybe the city should really
Same.
raise taxes a little bit to then get that roof fixed. Yeah, it's a little bit open air out there.
Stepping back. Where he was. Find out soon enough, guys. Who's still out there with me?
Okay, I have a decision. And I will give you my reasons for it. When a defendant is charged with murder, there are numerous lesser elements included in that. For example, a defendant kills somebody with a knife or a gun. They could be charged with assault, battery, assault with a deadly weapon, manslaughter, second-degree murder, first-degree murder. When there is all the elements of a lesser included crime, but all the elements of the highest crime is not there, then the charge should be reduced. For example, first degree murder, you do not have evidence of premeditation, it gets cut down to second degree. In this case, all the elements for failure to comply are there. However, the court does not find all the elements sufficient for a true obstruction of justice charge. Much like a murder being reduced to manslaughter or an assault, in this case, the charges are going to be reduced for failure to comply with a lawful order from a police officer and the defendants are found guilty of that charge, but not of the obstruction charge. This is just a simple misdemeanor. So rules court.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the sentencing is no jail time, but it will be $1,000 fines apiece.
And Your Honor, if I may, with the current rules of the city, that fine should actually be $3,000 a piece.
Yes, agreed.
We did it.
Now, as my clients have both posted a $50,000 bail for themselves, we will take the balance back from PD. Is that acceptable?
That is acceptable. Is that acceptable, Mr. Prosecutor?
Yeah, that is acceptable.
Then I believe this case as of today is closed.
Well done, Morgan.
Thank you, Morgan.
You're welcome.
Your Honor, I thank you very much for your time and your effort to make it in the city for this. Mildred, thank you very much for your duties as court reporter.
Yes, thank you for
Officer
your time.
Daniels, thank you very much for being the other bailiff for this event.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming. I know sometimes it can be difficult, especially as busy as the city was with the wedding.
I appreciate everyone's patience in this this endeavor. Well, Your
Yes.
Honor, if it is permissible, we will all get out of your hair so you can get to your scuba diving.
Okay, thank you.
Almost
Please be
definitely.
safe.
I'm looking forward to investigating what's off the coast.
Actually, Dawn, can you stick around?
Yeah, yeah, I
All
can
right.
stick around.
I'm talking about the other Dawn.
Oh,
Officer Daniels?
Yes.
How will we handle the refunding of the other?
I can do that right now, or do they want to head back to PD and do it there? Doesn't matter.
Now we'll be fine, I believe. And
Okay.
also, Astro had his flashlight and stun gun confiscated after the goings-ons on the second.
Okay, it should still be in our evidence locker, so they'll have to come back to PD anyway for that.
Astro, it's up to you if you would like to go with in this event.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm just
All
saying.
right.
I hope we didn't bring $94,000 with us.
Yeah, I've got money to refund them. It's fine. Yeah. So if you
Out of
guys
the
want to
way.
come with me, we'll go back to PD. I'll give you your money and then your items if you want to do that.
Yep.
Okay. Zap.
Yeah, I already got my items back that night.
Okay,
But,
so
the
I
refund
will.
would
Did
be
you want
good.
me to just give me your money here?
I can go to PD with you. My bike's
Okay.
there.
Let's go.
Well argued there, Polly.
Thank you, Your
Oh,
Honor.
Thank you,
thank you,
everyone.
Morgan.
All right.
Gentlemen, I hope you are both pleased with the outcome. I did my best.
Couldn't they have been
Yeah, I think it was
Polly,
fine.
you did great.
putting cops in danger? I mean, I don't know.
Polly,
I was going to say something about putting cops in danger, but
Welcome back, 80.
I'm ready to just follow and get my stuff back and be done.
Hey, there you go.
I realize these things open. That's pretty fancy.
I'm 1076 back to PD with a couple individuals, and then they just finished up court here.